Welcome to For the Culture podcast. I'm Christina, this is Max, and this is Rose. And today we have our special guest, Luke, the real estate broker. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful.
Tell us about yourself.
Say it again.
You're jolly?
Oh yeah, I'm jolly. I'm jolly.
Just to let you guys know, he is my broker. I do real estate. When I interviewed with this guy, he was like amazing. So basically, I want to start about how you started and the story you gave me.
Okay, well, I started. Do I look at the camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just be yourself.
Just be myself. Okay.
Look at you.
Hey, Mom, I'm on TV. So I started in the business maybe like 8 years ago or so, 9 years ago. When I first started, I got into this business because I had a corporate job. And it was one of those scenarios where they decided to outsource my position. So I was making very good money, for a young guy. And I came to work one day, and it was like, okay, you guys no longer have this position.
The whole department?
Yeah, the whole department was gone. It was gone. And what they did was they cut everybody from the top. They kept the people at the bottom. That's what corporations do, right? So I went home that evening. I wasn't upset, because I understand this corporate America. I went home that evening. My wife had a really good job. So I told her, and she said, well, what you going to do? And I decided that whatever I did, whether I was going to succeed or whether I failed, I wanted to be on my terms, right? I never wanted somebody to be able to snatch the rug from under me. At the time, I had 3 kids. Well, I still have 3 kids. I hope. But at the time, I had 3 kids, and I just wanted to go into something like insurance or mortgages, something where I know it was commission based and I could set my own hours and stuff like that. So I decided on real estate. I was watching a show on Bravo, and I saw this guy sell real estate, and he got like a $15,000 check. I was like, and on TV it happens within 30 minutes. I'm like, I can do this. So I went and got my real estate license. I signed up with a really big brokerage in Fort Lauderdale to quickly find out that in this business nobody really teaches you how to sell real estate. So I came from corporate sales, and this is a completely different monster. So my first year in the business, sad to say, I only made $18,000 in my first year in the business. In Broward County, I don't know how you can survive off of that, but I did have a backbone. My wife actually had a corporate job making really good money. So the first year I didn't do very well. The second year I had to do what I told Max is I had to eavesdrop on the real estate game. I literally went out and to open houses, down on Los Olas. I went to open houses, and I act like I had this buyer flying in from Spain, and I just allowed other agents to teach me without them knowing that they were teaching me. I was asking questions, and they would give me the answers because they wanted to sell this house for their seller, and they were trying to give me all the answers that I needed for this quote-unquote buyer, right? So I learned the business, and you guys and Max, I've already told him, real estate in South Florida is a middle-aged white woman business, right? So if you're middle-aged white, and I'm going to tell you that because the ones that are most successful, the ones you see on the billboards, are middle-aged white women. Because in South Florida, they grew up here, they went to high school here, all of their friends are here, and they're the one that are living in these prestigious neighborhoods, and they really don't have to market themselves anymore because all of the neighbors, they meet them at the country club, and they come to them to do business, right? So for a young black man coming into this business, I'm originally from Georgia. I'm not even from here, right? So when I got into the business, it was more like a struggle trying to break through. But you got to keep in mind, I got 3 kids at the house. I just can't keep making 18 grand. So like I told you, I eavesdropped on the game. And through trial and error, I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned a lot. Right, I learned a lot. In the second year, it started working for me. The third year, it took off from there. That third year, I took my wife away from her job, which she was making over 100 grand working for the city, and she started selling real estate. And around year 4, we started to notice, like, hey, we don't even need this company anymore. I went to the company and I asked them. I said, and this is how they play you, right, in corporate America. Even though you're still an independent contractor, I was working for a big brokerage. So I went to them. I'm like, you know what? Right now I'm on a 70-30 split. I think I need more of my money, right? Because it's commission based. And they tell me, well, no, you have to be around for like 10, 15 years. You got to do so much in sales. Yeah, to get more of my money. I'm the one bringing the clients. You're not giving the clients to me, but you're taking 30% of the commission.
So it's more like a franchise?
Yeah, well, it's not a franchise. It's just a big brokerage, a local brokerage, which will remain nameless. I'm not gonna name you guys, but I'm gonna shout out Jones Luxury Real Estate Group. So I went to the broker, and the broker, I mean, literally like shot me down, right? So I went back to my wife, and knowing like a very smart, intelligent black woman, she said, okay, well, we don't need them no more. We can just go open our own brokerage. And as an entrepreneur, I hadn't even thought about doing it on my own, but I was just happy that I was making money. I had already replaced the income that I had before. And so I went to school, got my real estate license, and opened my Well, I didn't open my brokerage, went back to the broker and told them I'm going to open my brokerage. And this is a message that's key for especially young entrepreneurs of color, right? All entrepreneurs, but young entrepreneurs of color specifically. So the guy tells me, no, you don't want to do that. The insurance, the overhead, it's going to drown you. You got to deal with, employees and all of this. Basically what he was trying to do is put the fire that I had, he wanted to pour a damper on the fire that I had, right?
It's funny. He don't want you to do it, but he's doing it.
Yeah. Similar story. We're getting ready to open a mortgage brokerage, and the person that my wife works for at this time, which I'll get to this story, but the person that my wife works for told her, hey, the insurance is gonna, you're gonna be swamped by it. And we turned around and asked the guy, well, if you can do it, why couldn't we do it? It was hard for you to do. Yeah, it's gonna be hard for us to do, but we're gonna freaking do it. If the guy that started, just think if the guy that started Chick-fil-A was worrying about what McDonald's was doing, he wouldn't be successful, and I wouldn't have this belly that I got now. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we started the brokerage in 2016, and it went from just my wife and I, just to keep 100% of our commission, but there's also a mission behind that commission that we were trying to get. And I'll get to that after I finish this. But we started with just the two of us, and then we started growing and growing and growing. And now we're up to 24 agents. We have an office right here on the Coral Springs Parkland border. And I'm what you would consider a top producing agent myself. I still sell real estate. I'm still actively in the market. I sell about 30 or 40 homes a year, when the average agent in Broward County does about 5 to 7, right? So I
live off of that 5 to 7.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can make off of 5 to 7, you can make a good maybe 30, 35. That's just like a regular job, But then you have taxes. You're taxed at 25 to 30%, So it's not like having a job. You got to market. All of that takes place. But just like I want to get back to this. I ain't gonna take over your podcast, right? Yeah. As y'all see, I got this espresso in me. I can just talk all day. But the like I was telling you, the mission behind the commission, right? Keeping the commission. Number one thing that I want to get, especially into you guys, because you're the generation behind me, right? Is you have to have something to pass to the next generation, right? So it was more than just like I've been approached by Keller Williams, right? They wanted to buy my brokerage, right? I got promoted. I didn't mean to say their name. Edit that. I got promoted. I got approached by another big brokerage as well. And they wanted to absorb my brokerage, right, for a fee. Basically, they want to buy me out, right? But the reason I won't do that is because I have 3 children, right? I can never pass somebody else's dream to my children. But if I build this as big as I could possibly build it, I can always say, I have Jacob, Gabrielle, and Taylor. I can say, hey, this business is yours. Take this and manage it. But that's what you call passing generational wealth from one generation to the next. That's the reason why you have these big companies, and they never, that's the reason Burger King never sold to McDonald's. Even though it's not as big as McDonald's is right now, I'm pretty sure McDonald's will absorb them. But this guy has a vision, and that vision passes down through their family line, which could change the face of my generations to come, financially.
Our culture too.
Yeah, and our culture.
I respect it because people of color, this is like the perfect time for us to take advantage of this. So when our kids or the next generation, they have an opportunity to take flight too, because we've been like shackled for so long.
Yeah.
So it's like our time to take flight.
Yeah. And what you have to, the way that I look at it, right, is obviously I want to grow this so big, right, so my children they can be like trust fund babies, right? But if I can't do that, you have to look at it like this. As a parent, you have to be the one to get on your knees and allow your kids to stand on your back so they can reach the top shelf, right? And so when they get up there to the top shelf, now my grandkids are standing on my back to get to their backs and stand on their backs to grow higher and higher, if you could see that in your mind, right? So that's literally what, that's what I want to do. In essence, every parent wants more for their children than they want for themselves. Now, when I was younger, I was always thinking like, what do you mean? Nah, I want to make it. I want to be that dude. You know what I'm saying? But I can see now as an adult, as a 35-year-old adult, than my 21-year-old self. I've always wanted to do it myself. I want to be the name. I want to be the one in lights. But if I can provide the pathway, like I said, if my children can stand on my back and use me as a ladder to get to the next level, that's what it's all about. Because now I can see, if my son is able to stand on my back and do triple what I'm able to do, I can see generations to come, my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, never having to suffer through poverty again. But it all starts through a change of mindset today through me,
So I always thought that was positive, and I feel like that's what people need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to talk about how important credit is in the process of buying a home.
Okay, credit is everything, right? Everybody says cash is king, cash is crap, right? Because you think about it, there's not even anything backing the United States dollar, right? Back in the day, the dollar used to be backed by gold. Right, but now they just print this crap. We're so many trillions of dollars in debt, but they keep printing money. Where does this money come from? Even when there's a recession, where does this money come from? But the importance behind credit, right? Because without credit worthiness, nobody's going to trust you, right? And it's the same thing in the street. If you don't have street credit, nobody's going to trust you. Nobody going to believe what you say, So but that credit allows you to use what I consider what we call leverage, right? So leverage is when you use something to help propel you to the next level, right? So credit, to buy a home, right? People think you have to have great credit. No, you can buy a home with bad credit. With a
bad credit. Oh, you said 500?
Oh, with a 580 credit score.
Well, 580.
580 credit score.
Isn't your interest rate high though?
Not necessarily. It's going to be higher than the average, right? Because I know you guys do your research, but the Fed sets the interest rate, right? And then the market determines what the rate is going to be for homeowners, right?
Well, depending on where you live at and everything?
Depending on your credit tier.
Oh, okay.
So if you have a 580 credit score, you're going to have a higher interest rate than you would if you have a 720 credit score, right? But you could buy a home with terrible credit, 580, and the amount that you're allowed to borrow from the bank will be based on your income and your debt, right? But the misconception, especially with younger people, right, and especially with our people, is that I can't buy a house right now because I got to get my credit together. If you got a 580, you can buy, right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
People don't want to do that because they don't want to pay that high interest rate too.
But you're paying 100% interest right now.
So might as well.
Yeah, you're paying 100% interest by renting.
Yeah.
That's 100% interest. You get no return on your investment.
So what if you're living with your parents still?
No, you're living with your parents. You're paying 0% interest, doing nothing. Yeah, you better live that up. As long as you can do that, yeah, do that. But for the most part, when you get to the point where you're ready to buy, which I would suggest like right after college, or even while you're in college, if you have income, you should buy. Even if people, and this is the misconception, everybody wants to have this big, elaborate, beautiful house, right? That's not what real estate is about. Obviously, I would guess by the time you're, an older adult, I'm thinking with me, by the time I'm like in my 50s and my children are in college and stuff like that, it would make sense to try to live it up. But for right now, real estate is about investing, right? Mm-hmm. So you're just getting out of college, right? Yeah, I don't know if you're out of college, but you're just getting out of college. You go and buy a little condo. You find a little condo, let's say in Sunrise somewhere, for $100,000, right? Your mortgage on that is going to be like $1,000 to $1,300, right? So now you have your own place, but let's say the market continues to increase and you keep that place for the next 10 years, right? So in the next 10 years, say the market has increased from $100,000, now that place is worth $150,000, right? Mm-hmm. And you've had it for 10 years, so you had a mortgage for $100,000, but you've paid the mortgage down to $75,000. But it's worth $150,000. So now you got $75,000 of equity in this property. So if you sell it, that means equity is a bank account. So you're just storing money over here, equity into an equity account. So when you sell that place, the difference between what you owe on the home, the $75,000, and what it's worth, the $150,000 is all yours. That's a whole bag that you get to take away from this property.
That's why people rent stuff out to people in condos.
Yeah. They're saying like.
So they're not even you paying the money now. The people who live in there is paying it out for them.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? So even if let's say you just got out of college, right? You went and got your first condo. You paid $100,000 for it. 3 years after you got into the condo, you met the guy of your dreams. You decide to get married. He already has a house, right? So what you're going to do is not sell that condo. You're going to rent it out. Somebody else is going to pay the mortgage on it. So you can't say it's a two bedroom, 2 bathroom condo, right? rent in that area is probably $1,400 a month, but your mortgage is only $1,000. So now you have $400 a month in profit. You know, and somebody's paying your mortgage for you. So now you have additional income, and you don't have to worry about paying the mortgage because it's rented out.
So what do you do if the market value of the house is down and you owe more money on the house? Okay,
so you never buy a house with the thinking that the market will go down, because the market will go down, right? The market, it happens, right? About every 10 years or so, the market goes up and down. Real estate is the most sound investment that you could ever make. So let's say you bought the house today for $100,000. If you can afford on your income, if you can afford this $100,000 house today, on your income, you would be able to afford that $100,000 house if the market crashed. So that's the reason you don't buy above your means, right? So if the market crashes, what you're going to do is take your seatbelt, strap it in, and you're going to ride the market out. But when the market comes back, that equity comes back with it. You never lose it. It may go down, but when it comes back up, you still have that, that same equity. So that's the reason why real estate is a solid investment. Now, if you had this in stock and the stock market crashed, you may have $10,000 in the stock market. It may go down to nothing. Now, how you gonna build back from nothing? But when you have real estate, you're still holding on to this solid piece of property. It's called real property. You still have it. It never went anywhere as long as you pay the mortgage on it. But once that market bounces back and that equity goes back up, you still have the equity in your place.
This is all opposed to renting and not getting anything.
Yeah, you're not getting nothing back. I think Max brought a client in the other day, and she was paying $1,800 a month in rent. She was like, I'm paying a lot. I was like, it don't matter if it's your place, right? Yeah. Because at the end of that lease, the only thing you can get back is that $1,800 deposit that you put down, and the savvy landlord is not going to let you get that, right? Because they're going to tell you, I got to repaint the house. It's going to cost $400. I got to steam clean the carpet. That's going to cost another $300. You broke the doors on the kitchen cabinet. It's going to cost another $400. So they're going to try to nickel and dime. That's what happens. They try to nickel and dime you out of your security deposit. So you may, at the end of a year lease, walk away with $200-300, $500 max. But at the end of owning a property and you sell it, all of that equity comes right into your pocket.
So is it true that if you pay 20% down on a home that you don't have to pay the PMI insurance?
Yes, that's key, right? If you have the 20%, right? If you have the 20%, you don't have to pay the PMI. So just to give you an example, right? My neighbor bought their house. They bought their house for $320,000, and the PMI on $320,000 is about anywhere between $180 and $220 or so for a PMI. So that's additional monies that is inside of your mortgage, just in case you default on your loan. The government basically steps in and pays 20% of the 25% of the property value, right? So with that 20%, if you had 20%, the average Joe is not walking around with 20% to put down on the property. But the smart thing to do, right, if you don't have the 20%, is to do a conventional loan. Conventional loan, you only have to have a 640 credit score. That's not good credit, right? 640 credit score is all you have to have. But once you reach 20% equity in that home, you can actually call the bank back and say, hey, I have 20% equity in my home. I need to remove the PMI, right? And what they'll do is they'll reassess the value of your home by sending out an appraiser. And when that appraiser comes out, if the appraisal comes back with and it shows that you have 20% equity in the house, they'll remove the PMI from your loan, right? Which gives you peace of mind that now I don't have to pay this extra $180 to $220, right? It makes sense to buy initially and then get rid of the PMI later if you don't have the 20% down. But if you have the 20% down, why not invest in it in not having to pay that extra money every month?
Explain to PMI to people who might be watching, they don't know what PMI is.
Okay, so there's PMI, MI. I'm going to tell you how it works like this, right? The banks have, how would you say, an insurance policy that you're paying on the loan for the bank, right? So if you foreclose on the property, the bank can take the same note back to the government and say, hey, this person foreclosed, and the government guarantees 25% of the value of that loan. So if you owe $100,000, the bank is going to give them $25,000, right? The bank will give the government will give the bank $25,000 back. So it's an insurance policy for the bank because you're not 20% vested in that property. You know, is that clear?
Yeah.
So I know your Jones Luxury Real Estate Group is hiring. So what would you say to agents that are getting their license or have their license, the training you offer and how you get them started?
Oh, that's easy. Call me. Call me. My number is 305-747-9311. But seriously, if you are an agent that, I would say if you're a new agent or an existing agent or you're thinking about getting into the business, the number one thing that you're going to need, right, is a broker, right? Not necessarily let's go to get any broker, but you need a broker that will actually put their hands on you, not like put their hands up, but you know what I'm saying? That could actually mold you into a really good agent. Because what happens, like I told you guys, I started at a big brokerage and there was no support, right? The broker that was at my brokerage was a pilot, right? He didn't even sell real estate. I walked in this guy's office one day to ask him a question. He pointed to one of the other agents that was in the office, right? Now, the difference between those type of brokerages and myself, right? Because we're only 24 agents strong right now, right? The difference between one of those companies where there's 200 agents, which we're going to get there, but with those companies, you're normally just a number, right? And that's what you don't want to be if you are getting into real estate. You want to be more than a number, because in those companies, if you only do one sale a year, they don't care. You know, because you got 200 people doing one sale a year, you're still getting paid, right? But at a company like mine, it makes more sense for me to pour into you as an agent to show you actually how to do this. You know, so we go through different trainings. I'll train them guys on how to understand the contract, how to out-negotiate your competition, which I do a lot, right? And it was so funny. This morning on my way to school, I'm sorry guys, I go off on tangents a lot. But this morning on my way dropping my son off to school, we're listening to this radio show, right? Which will remain nameless. But we're listening to this radio show, and this guy says on there, you have to play dumb to get the attention of the wise, right? So with a lot of people, they think that because you may be a newer agent, you don't understand the contract. But this is what you're going to do, right? You're going to Bruce Lee the crap out of them because you understand. That's what I teach my agents. Like, we go through the contract. It's law jargon. It's 12 pages. The FARBAR as is contract is 12 pages of law jargon, which I've personally sat down with an attorney and said, explain this line to me. Explain this line to me. And as he was explaining, I wrote down a layman's way of doing it. And that's how I explained it to my agent. So when you're dealing as a new agent, when you're putting in the offer, and let's say there's 4 other agents that are putting in offers, they all been in the business for 20 years. Like I said, you're gonna play dumb to get the attention of the wise, right? So they think because they look up your license number, you're just a new agent, you don't know what you're talking about. Because you're well trained in the contract, you're out negotiating it. You know, you're giving better terms. And that even works with that even comes when it would that even goes the same when it comes to working with buyers and sellers. You know, because sometimes you got to negotiate against your buyer and seller, even though you're representing them. Because Max, we had a buyer. I had to get on the phone and negotiate against the buyer, basically convince him using so many words, you know, to actually move forward with the deal. So if you guys are thinking about getting into the business of real estate, or if you are a realtor right now, what I would suggest is go get with a broker that's actually selling real estate right now, and partner with them. Because with my agents, I spend a lot of money on like real estate advertising, right? And all of my agents go under me on this particular platform, where it's the biggest real estate website in the world. Well, all of my agents go under me. So when people click on my face because they see my experience, they're exposed to 24 other people, right? And that, as a byproduct of being connected with me, it gives them the opportunity to get those clients that they would never get. So partner with a broker that's actually selling real estate and that can take you somewhere. And this is for the culture, right? So I can say stuff for the culture, right? Go partner with a black broker, right? This is one of my pet peeves, that people say, hey, support black business. But the problem that we're having in our culture is not supporting black business. When people say that, they really don't mean go support black business, right? What they really mean is support me because I'm black. That's what they're saying. The difference in supporting me because I'm black, I'm gonna give you a scenario, right? So Max, if Max wouldn't have came and worked with me, right? You would have went and worked with ABC Real Estate, right? And Max would be putting out there, come support me. I'm a black entrepreneur. Come support me. Now, if you take your black dollars and you go to Max and support Max, right? But the person that owns Max company is not black. You're not supporting black business, because who benefits the most when you support a black entrepreneur? The person that owns the company, right? So I have this argument with people all the time. They're like, no, I'm an entrepreneur, but who owns your company? Who owns your company? Where are those dollars going? And then what happens to those dollars when they get into that person's pocket? The difference between people like that and people like me, right? I'm a black broker. So if you come and support Max, the percentage that Max doesn't get comes to a black company. And what happens with this black company, I hope this is not too black for y'all.
No.
Okay, so what happens when that money comes into my pocket, I didn't turn around and put it into other black people's pockets, right? So the attorney is black, the inspector is black, the repairmen are black, the what else can I name? The title company, black, the mortgage broker, black owned, not just black people, but they own the business. So now I turn around and I put those dollars in other hands. Now, just to let you know, like this, like say give you another example. Say you're at home, a guy comes and knocks on your door, a black guy comes and knocks on your door. Man, you need to support me. We're out here cutting grass, but he works for this big grass company that's not black owned. Yeah, you're supporting him, but at the end of the day, it's this other culture that's getting supported on the back end, right? But if you go to a guy, let's just say his name is Joe Johnson's Lawn Care, right? As another black person that's putting their dollars into society somewhere, if you take and go support Joe Johnson's Lawn Care, right? And you tell all of the other black people that you know to go and support Joe Johnson's Lawn Care. Joe Johnson can go from making $35,000 a year to making well in the six figures. And tell you how that happens, right? So I have a guy, and and I don't mean to take up too much time, but this is a real life scenario. There's a guy, a Jamaican guy, right? Black guy, that he owns an inspection company. And when I first met him, he was telling me, man, my income annually is about $50,000 a year, which is, a pretty modest income. It's pretty good. So I told him, I said, I'm going to partner with you, and I'm going to send all of my buyers to you for an entire year. So during an entire year, I sent him at least 30 buyers, right? So he charges $500 a pop. That's an additional, what, 15 grand. So Max goes and Max gives him 10 clients. You give him 10 clients. You give him 10 clients. And we get every black realtor, not every, let's say we got 50 black realtors to support this one particular inspector. This guy could go from making $50,000 a year to making well over $200,000 a year. But here's the problem that we have as a culture. We don't want to see other people make more money than us.
Why is that though?
I'm gonna tell you why that is, right? Because secretly, and it all stems from Jim Crow syndrome, right? Because and I know you guys have heard of Jim Crow syndrome, right? Where they take the light skinned people and they give them more privilege than they would give a dark skinned person, right?
Like Uncle Ruckus from Moondocks?
Yeah, just like Uncle Ruckus. But what they would do is they would give privilege to one person over the next. So that's what created this whole, it's like crabs and we're not crabs and don't let people tell you that's not how we are. But there are some of us that underneath, the issue, we're like, man, we in the same industry. Yeah, I want to root for the next black person, but I want you to win, but I don't want you to win more than me. I want you to get to the finish line, but not before I get there. I would rather get to the finish line and help pull you up versus help push you to the finish line and ask you to help pull me up. And see, that's what I see a lot in my industry. Because I had people that left my brokerage and went and worked for a black team at a white company, right? The issue was, I don't hide it. I'll come into the office, man, I got a closing day, I got to close them up, because I'm actually out here doing it, and I'm teaching you how to do the same thing. The issue is seeing me do it and getting jealous because I'm doing it instead of trying to duplicate what I'm doing. Right?
Yeah.
So, and instead of trying to duplicate what I'm doing, you'll get mad or jealous at what I'm doing and say, hey, I don't really want them to win. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem with our culture, and it's not everybody in our culture. And I don't down our culture. I know we can work together. I know we can collab, because I do it personally. I support a lot of black businesses, and the ones that I am supporting that are not black is because I haven't found a black one to do it yet, But and I wouldn't necessarily, I never get down on our culture, but I think that's the issue. Our culture has a problem seeing other people that look like us win. And it's not that we don't like to see them win. We don't want to see them win before us.
Mm.
And my wife and I was having this conversation, and she was saying, like, if your goal is to make $100,000, if you see me make $500,000, why you have a problem with it?
Mm-hmm.
If you made $100,000, your goal was to make $100,000. You haven't got to where I am now. So if I make $500,000, you shouldn't be mad.
It's all meant.
Yeah, you shouldn't be mad. What you should say is, dang, if he did it, I can freaking do it. How did you do it? Yeah. How did you do it? And as a black man that has done it, I'm obligated to you.
To help him.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I can't hold back from you. I gotta say, yeah, you want to know how I did it, man? Sit down. Now, if you're willing to do the work, you can do it too. And I'm gonna be your biggest cheerleader. But people like to be in this position. They don't want to be in that position. To say, hey man, I saw you do it, man. You did an amazing job. Can you show me how to do it?
And then that next person's obligated to
To
help.
the next person. Yeah.
Or
I've noticed
sometimes
too.
they're stingy too. Like with
That
that
too, I was just
information.
about to say that. Sometimes I notice is that sometimes people want handouts too.
Yeah.
They don't realize that you didn't have a handout. You actually had to work, put in
Yeah.
hours for that. So they expect you to just like give them a whole blueprint or something.
Mhm.
And then if you don't give it to them the way they want it, they're like, oh, so you're not going to help me out?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? With everything in life, you can find negatives and positives, right? So the negative is, people are going to want a handout, but there are people out here willing to do the work, right? And everybody is not going to be the same. There are people that are willing to do the work, but as a culture, we have to become a people who are willing to assist other people who are willing to do the work. It takes a ton from me to turn around and pour myself into other people, right? Because I can really be selfish. As an agent, I could personally do 50 to 100 sales a year, right? And I can float a whole office with no agents because I can market myself that way, right? I would be super tired. I would make a lot of money. I'd probably make $1 million, right, in 1 year. And but I would make no significant impact on this industry because if I was to work myself to death after I'm gone, I haven't taught anybody how to do what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So it's my responsibility as a black entrepreneur to turn around and teach other black entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs of color, how to do what I'm doing. Reproduce myself is what I told you. I want to reproduce myself in others. And I think if we can grasp that mindset. So what I'm really talking about, if you're a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, an insurance agent, we're all entrepreneurs, right? If you're a title company, a lawyer, you should go and hang your license with a black-owned company. It's very important. As long as that company is superior or equal to what you're used to, right? So if I told you you're working for a company right now and it's a white-owned company, a franchise or something like that, if you're making 90% commission there, if I tell you as an entrepreneur that you can make 90% commission here, and we have a higher standard of excellence, and we have to, we're black, right? I just can't put out rinky-dink business, so I have to have a higher standard of excellence. If I can match or exceed where you're at now, you should be trying to get in contact with me. You should. At the end of the day, once you find out there's somebody that's just as excellent as this white company you're at, literally, you should be trying to connect yourself with them because that's how money circulates, right? Because if the person at the top doesn't look like you, they're not then donating into your causes.
What are the pros and cons to a condo versus a home?
It depends, right? If you're gonna do a condo, the pros to a condo would be condos are like first steps, right? First steps or last steps. If it's your first home, it makes sense to do a condo because you don't have the maintenance. You don't have to cut the grass. If you don't have to repair the roof. Everything is taken care of by the condominium association. Now, when you're buying your first home, that's amazing because it's less money that you have to spend. And then when you're downsizing as an older adult or a senior citizen, it makes sense to go back to that first step. But the difference in a condo versus a single family home, the pro to a single family home is the equity builds a heck of a lot faster than it does in a in a condo. And then you have more privacy. Obviously it's probably going to be bigger. You have to maintain the property, but it all goes back to that equity. The equity builds faster in a single family home. than it does a condo. But it's all based on preference. If you're a family with one kid and you guys just don't want the maintenance of a single family home, by all means go for the condo. But if you have low credit, the condo is not going to work for you, right? Because you at least got to have a 640 credit score to do a conventional loan. And if you can only get approved for a FHA loan, then with a 580 credit score, you can't buy a condo because FHA doesn't lend to condos in Broward County.
So where can everybody find you, and where can agents find you to reach out to work with you?
If you're interested in working with us or just have questions, you can reach out to me via my cell phone, which is 305-747-9311. If you want to connect with me on social media, my Instagram is Luke's Real Estate Drip. If you want to find me on Facebook, it's Luke Jones. Don't look for me on Twitter because there's going to be some offensive stuff on there that you want to see. I was telling somebody the other day, Instagram is where you can see my business stuff. Facebook, if I don't know you, I'm not going to friend you, but Twitter is where I troll. Twitter is where I troll. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. I'm glad to be able to come on.
Thank
you.
There you go.
For the culture.
For the culture, baby.